Okay, next one. Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for taking questions. I was wondering if you could describe your first experience of knowing or seeing you were one with all there is. I have only had a 3-second experience of this knowing, not even enough of an experience to really know what happened. It was literally just a blip and then gone. Most enlightened beings describe this seminal happening where everything opens, reality is seen, and fear drops away for them because they know at that moment they are one with all there is. And then could anything hurt them as they are all there is? My own experience has been more of a slow trickle of dropping away of beliefs, a seeing of my conditioning that has clouded or veiled reality, lifted away to see more of what is there. Just quiet little epiphanies and seeings along the way. I am not one to meditate in silence, no patience here in this body-mind. And I long to live this opening experience. Could you describe yours so that I can experience vicariously through your seeing of total connection? I know it's happening to me, in capitals, me in capitals, just not yet to this me, lol. Thank you again. Much love. Well, I hate to disappoint you, but my first experience of this was exactly like yours. It wasn't, it was, I think, about half a second or something. And it wasn't blissful. It wasn't even really exceptionally peaceful. It was just, oh, I don't really end anywhere. It was just like that. I don't really end anywhere. And it was just more like, oh, okay. And it was just literally half a second. And after some inquiry, I'd done some inquiry and come to see that after I've worked on seeing that I am this, as we were just talking about before, the next thing that seemed important to investigate then was how big is this emptiness here we're talking about? And I knew, of course, theoretically that it was infinite, that I am infinite. But actually experiencing myself as that and then not being able to find where it stops, or not being able to find anything that could stop it. Even if I was to put a wall in the middle of this emptiness, a solid wall like the one behind me, will it stop this emptiness? Not so much. Could anything stop it? And it was just kind of a thought realization. I don't end anywhere. There is only me, or there is only this. And it was only really later that it occurred to me that that meant there was nothing other than me. There was nothing different to me, nothing that could hurt me, as you said. And when I looked at this again and again, only then did it become sort of to come through in clearer glimpses, longer. And perhaps in a way that you're not expecting to, which is important, because if we're looking for a big experience, I have to say that most people I've worked with, and myself as well, never really had those big moments. We tend to kind of remember those beings that have had this big explosion, a big sudden and explosive seeing of I am all there is and there's nothing other than me. And as you say, fear drops away in that moment. Even when I've seen beings have that, it's still, fear will come back in afterwards, because just because I've had this seeing doesn't mean that it's necessarily powerful enough to override all of my beliefs that are still in separation. So I can have this seeing that I am all there is, I am everywhere, infinite. And then the very next moment, I go back to thinking about someone else, and I've divided myself again in that. So that doesn't just stop happening just because I've had this seeing. We have to begin to then look at these beliefs and take them apart. So not very exciting at first, vicariously, to live through that. But as I began to see this again and again and again, it began to come with the stereotypical, more and more explosive feeling. It kind of, every time I saw it, it hit me deeper. And it left me less able to think in separation afterwards. Not totally, but enough that it really hurt to do that anymore. That I really had to kind of want to live like this. And little by little, these glimpses went from a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes, and then a couple of hours. And then eventually I realized that there was no point pushing against it when it seemed to disappear. That took me a while to figure that out, because each time it came back, it was stronger, clearer, more obvious. So can you realize the same thing over and over again? Yes, you can. Each time you realize it, it's going to pervade the body and mind deeper and richer and stronger, and it's going to leave more of a lasting effect. And it seems to go because everything that's lower in energy than that has to come up, as we were saying before. So if I want to live permanently, stably, and effortlessly as the one being, the truth that I've seen, I have to examine all my ideas that are remaining in separation. Even the idea that I've got to get to awakening, or there's a me and the emptiness, as we were saying, these ideas even have to be examined to live as that completely. So your condition is going to come up after you see this. And that isn't something going wrong. That is something going really, really, really right. As if mind is finally saying, okay, there's reality, even though it was only half a second or whatever it was. Here's everything that's in the way of you living like this. And of course, once we have a little glimpse, all we want from that point on, really, somewhere inside, is to live like that for the rest of our lives and beyond. And to live like that effortlessly. To not have to keep inquiring all the time. So conditioning is going to come up, but that doesn't mean you've lost it. That doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It's really important to get that. Anything that's stuck and stored in the body mind that's of a lower frequency than the absolute truth is going to come up into the light of your beingness, the awareness, the emptiness, as we're calling it. So it's totally normal what you've described here. And just not entertaining the idea that you've done something wrong when some conditioning comes up after you've seen the truth. And each time you just let that conditioning come up and just watch it. And if you need to question if it's true, the idea, then it's going to come up, it's going to pass through the system and out. And immediately on the back of that is going to be a deeper and clearer seeing of what you've realized. So a deeper and clearer seeing, something comes up to be released. If you allow it to go without identifying best you can, then the next thing that's going to happen is a deepening, automatic, like waves coming up and down the beach. Wave comes in really, really far, you have a deep seeing, and then it recedes a little bit as some conditioning comes up. Next time the wave comes in, it comes further up the beach and then recedes a little bit, but not as far as it did last time, so on and so on. So most beings will experience this slow trickle, understanding after understanding, that seem normal and obvious at the time, don't seem amazing. But as you begin to recognize, each time you see, it's coming with more an energetic impact. And it leaves you changed afterwards, doesn't it? Something is changing. And that begins to speed up as you just gently invite these seeings again, not reaching for anything, just gently inviting this to come. What's that like? I'd like to see it again. I'd like to go further into that. It'd be nice if it happened again, but not kind of chasing after it, because you'll only serve to emphasize that it's gone, that you've got to get back to it, something like that. So I hope that helps. Very boring the first time I saw it. It really didn't feel anything extra special. It was just a very ordinary moment in that way. It's not what most people want to hear, but nonetheless, it needs to be said, because otherwise we have this expectation, like I did, of I was waiting for this big event. And all the while sneaking up on me without me realizing was this powerful thing going on underneath, little by little, but gathering pace and incrementally. So much so that I didn't even realize when I stopped suffering. It was so gradual. I didn't realize that I'd stopped suffering till afterwards, much later. That sounds crazy, right? You think you'd know when you stop suffering, but it was only when something happened in my life and there was no ability to identify with the thoughts and emotions that came up. I was like, that's very, very different. That was weird. And then I looked back and realized it'd been a long time since I suffered. But I didn't actually know that something had fallen away like that because it'd been so gradual. I hope that gives you a little bit of inspiration and hope there.